Hello everyone, this is part 1 of What If Naruto and Hinata Had a Kid. This story is made by imadecookies, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. She felt the warmness beside her disappear with the moving pressure of the bed. Her eyes lazed open, sleep was still on her but her brain had already stirred. It was still dark out, no normal person would be up at this hour. It's not even light out, she whispered, turning over, watching him trying to wake himself up beside her. His legs swung over the bed and he sat staring at the floor for a few moments. A ritual for him, she didn't know how this helped him wake up, but it worked for him. I have a job to do, he whispered back to her, and she felt his presence leave her completely. She drifted off to sleep again, only for a moment before she felt him on the bed again. She looked up and was met with a kiss, a good morning and a goodbye kiss all in one. She lingers for a moment, letting the darkness fade away while her eyes adjust to the lack of light. The sun has yet to rise at her window, but she can't seem to go back to her peaceful sleep she once had. Especially with the space next to her now empty and cold. She got up and slipped her robe on. Her feet padded through the house, she could walk through it with her eyes closed now, no need to turn on any lights. The large apartment is very quiet at this time, sometimes it even surprised her. Come sunrise there would be enough noise to anger the neighbors, yet right now she seemed like the only one in the world. She walked down the hallway and into a doorway. She looks over at the sleeping body, no heart to wake them. They would be up soon enough with no sense in their small brain to let her rest again. She needed to savor these moments of quiet. They were rare. She went over to the kitchen, tea sounded good to her still lazy body. She went to her stove, it would help her wake up and yet relax her like it always had. She sat at the table with her new hot mug of tea, she blew on it to let it cool. Her eyes caught the silver gleam on her left hand. Her friends who had made the same journey all had great diamonds attached to the bands. Hers though had no diamond, only a silver band. She didn't mind, why tell lies to everyone saying she had ever been engaged? Everyone knew that wasn't the case with her. The cold days of December made her cheeks blush in the cold and her fingertips grow slightly prickly due to lack of gloves. Hinata tried her best not to run down the street. There was no reason to run, he was going to wait for her. But still, her heart couldn't help but carry her feet a little faster than need be. She rounded corners and almost collided with people as she made her way to the ramen shop. She was never really one to like ramen, but she didn't care. Naruto, she called when she was about 5 feet from it. The blonde boy of 17 looked up and smiled cheerfully. Just as he promised, he had waited for her. There was no steaming bowl of ramen before him like there usually was at the ramen shop. This, she knew, had to take some serious strength from the boy. To wait as long as he did and eat nothing in his favorite restaurant, it was like dangling candy in front of a sweet-toothed child. When she ran up, he didn't say hi or give her a hug. He swept her into a movie magical kiss. It was rare for her boyfriend of a year to show such grand gestures of affection in public. But she didn't complain, she loved them when they made their appearance. Happy birthday, he said when he broke her away from this kiss. Her knees were weak and her brain seemed to stall for a minute. She had to slowly process the words in her brain. Birthday, yes, her birthday, today, which is why she was here. Thank you, she said, still in her state of bliss. He helped her sit down. Naruto didn't have much money, which was surprising on the amount of missions he went on and passed. However, Hinata knew that even though he always seemed to have just enough in his little frog, he did have a good bundle stashed away in his savings account. Despite what everyone thought, he was a very stingy person. He saved for that rainy day. Today he seemed to have a little more than usual, but still just enough to buy her ramen and a gift on her birthday. Most girls might get bored with this ritual, but Hinata could live off of it. Today he would treat her around town, starting with ramen followed by a walk through the shops, and she could pick out anything she wanted. Then that night they'd see a movie, then go back to his place. It was special because today was the day he would clear his schedule and make room for only her. He wouldn't work with the Hokage as an apprentice to become the next Hokage, he wouldn't help his friends like he usually did, and he wouldn't accept missions. Today was her day, and she was downright ecstatic about that. When they were done eating just as promised, he walked her to the shops, her hand in his. His subtle sign to tell the world she was his. Hey you two. Happy birthday Hinata. Sakura had found them, she was waved toward them, Sasuke right behind her with a weird smirk on his face. Birthday. Sasuke voiced, looking down at her with cool eyes. Happy birthday then. Hinata was never close to Sasuke, she had never said more than 2 words to him before, and on his return to the sand she wasn't the only one suspicious of him. But it seemed, in the eyes of one of her closest friends, and the person she loved, that this man was alright in the end. Sasuke still gave her a creepy feeling, but she let it pass, he was trying after all. Thank you Sasuke. So how old are you? Sakura asked. 17. Hinata said proudly. Something special overcame a girl on her birthday, the older she got the more she left childhood behind. You two on a date? Naruto asked his teammates. You could say that, we just met for lunch. I have to go back to work and Sasuke has another meeting with the elders. Sakura said, another smile on her face, then looked at her watch. Speaking of which, I need to get back soon it will have my head if I'm late again. She said. The 2 newest couple of Konoha walked off just as fast as they had shown up. Any idea what you want this year? Naruto asked, turning his attention back on her. The question was so simple, yet it still managed to make her feel a bit selfish. She had grown up a privileged girl compared to him, however she had never been showered with gifts before in her life. Someone buying something for her other than herself was almost completely foreign. I don't really know, she said honestly. She hadn't really spent all night thinking of what to make her boyfriend buy her, she was just happy she had all day with him. She was just happy their lunch wouldn't be broken up by someone needing his help, or by a mission, or him having to cut it short because soon it needed him back as soon as possible. They passed by a shop of small trinkets and jewelry, her eyes caught a pair of sapphire earrings. They were expensive and she felt bad for showing such interest in them, she almost wanted to take it back and keep walking. Christmas had just passed and he had bought her an lace with the exact same birthstone, and now she expected earrings as well. She wasn't that selfish, but it was too late, he saw how her eyes lit up and dragged her inside. She was too embarrassed to really listen, she couldn't hide how him showering her with gifts made her feel a bit ridiculous. The pretty redhead in the store happily accepted the weight of money from his Gama-chan. He cheerfully said thank you to the girl, who no doubt was just as thankful with her new pay raise thanks to Hinata's interest in diamonds. Naruto, you really shouldn't have, she said, looking at the pretty light blue sapphires in her hand. They were real, no doubt about that, and now they were hers. How come? He asked her and seemed genuine confused about the response. Why was his girlfriend telling him he shouldn't have bought her a birthday gift? Thank you, she said and tiptoed up to give him a kiss on his cold cheek. A boyish smile crossed his lips and she proceeded to put on her new earring for the world to see. The rest of the day was a wonderful blur of romantic moments and sweet kisses. A romance movie she knew he hated but sat through for her. A dinner not at a ramen place, but at a nicer restaurant that was warm with a fireplace. At the end of the night they walked hand in hand back to his place, her heart pounded. When it came to the case of Hinata's chastity, it wasn't really a secret that it had flown out the window at the age of 16 when they had finally come out in public with their relationship. No one made a spectacle of it, whether they knew or they didn't. No one said a word, but no one pretended to act naive either. It hadn't really been so much as magical as it was in the movies, so much as it was a night of pure lust and teenage hormones. Things didn't just lead to another, she had been fully aware of the course of actions taken that night and she had had the chance to stop them. But she didn't, and thinking back she was glad she didn't. Now she couldn't really attempt to count how many times she wanted him or how close they had gotten since then. It was a wonderful day, Naruto. Her voice was small, she had no idea how to thank him for clearing his schedule the way he did. That couldn't have been very easy, especially working so close to the Hokage. It was, wasn't it? He said, smiling at her with a lazy but confident smile that stole her heart away. The birds began to wake up, pink filled the sky. It was sunrise, She was on her second cup of tea. She started to feel sleepy again. Maybe she should go back to sleep for an hour or so. Mommy. A familiar sweet voice was at the doorway to the kitchen. She turned to the sweet face of a 4-year-old. Dark hair long and straight like her own with the pale skin of a hyuga but the eyes of pale blue from the genes of her father. She was a good mixture of only the two's best genetic codes. This child was blessed. Hinata couldn't count how many times people had told her that when they saw her little Yumi. Of course these compliments only came once everyone and their mother got over the initial shock of her arrival. Why are you up so early? She sounded confused and even suspicious. She was a ninja's daughter, no mistaking that. Anything out of the ordinary was greeted with suspicion rather than curiosity. To keep up with you. Hinata smiled at her daughter. Usually the little girl had to bounce into her room at the crack of dawn to get her up. It was rare that she was waiting for her in the kitchen. Hungry. The little girl nodded and crawled up into her high chair still in her pajamas. Hinata did her motherly duties at the stove of making her daughter's favorite breakfast, the one and only she would eat. You're not hungry? The girl asked while stuffing her face. Don't talk while you're chewing. Hinata corrected her daughter's table manners. For someone who had never known a mother, she surprised herself on her discipline. Maybe she really should thank her father one of these days. I already ate, while you were sleeping. She never ate breakfast. The 9 months of not being able to stomach breakfast had scarred her away from all breakfast foods known to man and eating before noon. Now that she had her morning fuel, the young 21-year-old mother braced herself for the tornado of a day to come. It was no doubt who the father of this child was, because there was no other human on earth who could possess so much energy. She woke up in his arms. A position she only got when she stayed here. Something that was actually rarer than people may have believed. With their conflicting schedules and mission, the two barely got a night to spend together. Such was the life of a ninja though. You took what you could get when you could get it. She almost wished him to not wake up. If he didn't wake up, they didn't have to go back to the daily lives, and she didn't have to put in a request to meet for lunch. She felt him stir under her, and she held on tighter. She felt him laugh. You're going to have to let go someday, he said, amused. Not today, she said, her eyes still closed, breathing in his scent. She reluctantly let him go when he began to crawl out of bed with her still attached to him. She wanted to tell him to call in sick, to tell the Hokage he needed an extra day off. But she knew better, she knew him better. She watched him cross the room and turn the shower on. She was still sleepy, but she decided to watch the show instead. You really busy today? She asked, though she already knew the answer. Making up for all my work I missed yesterday, he said, smiling at her, playfully blaming her for it. You say that like you're complaining. Hinata gave him her special look, a look she gave him from under his eyelids. She sat up with the sheets wrapped around her body, outlining her figure. Don't do that, he warned her and disappeared into the bathroom. It was amusing how much power they had over each other. She wondered if he was aware of it as much as she was. When they were both dressed and ready to leave, and doing the damned best to keep their hands off each other, they made plans to meet up again given there was no mission involved. Their plans were never set in stone. It was always a, maybe, or a, we'll see, or the most common one was, I would like to. Was this what life was going to be like once he was Hokage? Hinata had the feeling it would be much worse. She would be lucky if she saw him at all. They give their last kiss goodbye at the steps of his apartment. He runs off to the tower while she makes plans to sneak into her father's house. The Hyuga compound has its usual guards out front. They greet her warmly. They were used to seeing her missing all night and bouncing back in the morning. If only her father would greet her with the same warm smiles as the branch member guards did. Where have you been? Out, she said almost innocently. At the age of 16, Hinata realized she never needed to tell her father every detail of her outings, especially when they included a boyfriend he just tolerated rather than liked. All night. Yes. Doing what? I need to meet Kiba and Shino. I'll see you later, father, she said, walking away. If she mentioned possible training, her father would practically push her out the door, dropping all suspecting whereabouts she could have been last night. She made her way into her bedroom for a shower. The last thing she needed was to go see her two male teammates after smelling of S and her boyfriend. If she could count on them for one thing, it would be like treating her like one of the boys, and sometimes that was fun, other times that was just plain annoying. The breeze had gotten colder since she had been inside. She may have been born in December, but she was never one to really love the cold days. She was more of an autumn person, not too cold and not too hot. It was still early in the day, almost noon. The streets were just getting the usual crowd in. Hinata. She turned to the sound of her name. 2 days in a row she bumped into Sakura in the street, which was impressive. The girl was usually harder to get a hold of than the Hokage herself. Hi Sakura. What are you up to? Getting some lunch for Tsunade. I wanted to tell you since I saw you were doing checkups at the hospital next month, you want me to get you in early. Sometimes Sakura was a saint. Ninja checkups were mandatory for all Konoha shinobi, but if you didn't have an appointment you had to wait around all day that they were on the letter of your name, and pray they made time for you. The funny thing was, no one could really make appointments in the necessary month in advance because the doctors forgot to tell people when the exams would be. Yes please, Hinata said. Okay, I'll let you know when. By the way, nice earrings. And with that she was off again. Hinata knew from experience the next time she would see her would be on the day of exam, because Hinata always requested a female doctor and they always gave her Sakura. I can't believe we haven't had a mission in 2 weeks. Kiba was complaining, leaning against a tree. I'm sure things will come up soon. Hinata voiced. She was greeted with hellos and a friendly bark from the big white dog. She knew her old friend wasn't referring to their team anymore. They hadn't really been a team in a long time, though they still did some A and B class mission together, and on days like today trained together. But they had also separated too. Kiba was training his own kids now while Shino worked in with his father. They had become the #1 tracking team Konoha had known, so when a tracking mission came along they were usually the first ones called, but it had been a slow month for them. Where are your kids? Who knows? Probably causing havoc somewhere. She gave up lecturing Kiba on his teaching techniques. If the Hokage had no complaints then neither did she. And Naruto had assured her time and time again that the kids placed in his hands were in no real danger, as much as it may seem at times. She heard Akamaru back at her and almost startled her. It wasn't a really friendly back but more alarming. Her senses went up and she looked around. You look different. Kiba mused, peering at her. What? She was confused. What was so different about her? She was exactly the same as she was yesterday when she saw him trying to teach his kids how to walk on trees. Akamaru senses something different about you. Are those real? He asked, pointing to her ears. Hinata couldn't help but beam. Yep. He let out a whistle. Wow, you must really put out for Naruto to spend that kind of money on you. Her smile faded and she was left with a deep blush. Kiba, enough you two, said a commanding and dark voice. They looked around at the entrance of the third member. He looked tired as he could look with sunglasses covering his face. It was in his voice. Normally he got amused with Hinata and Kiba bickering and teasing each other, and today he seemed to have no stomach for it. Today we train, not fight, he said seriously, and the two made silent amends. Even though she had showered that morning she felt she needed on again. She was covered head to toe in dust and grime, and sweat altogether made like a muddy paste on her skin. Though she felt disgusting, they were signs of a good training session. In her experience it was the dirtier you got the better your session was. They said it's good chance of snow come January. Kiba mused as they walked back into town. That'll be nice. We didn't have any snow come Christmas. Hinata mused. She couldn't deny she didn't like the snow in the winter, even though she could do without the extreme cold. You know Hinata, something really is different about you. Enough Kiba. Her tone was dark and warning. She didn't want to hear any more of his teasing. Kiba-sensei, said a loud squeaky voice. It was attached to a girl in bright red pigtails. Hey, there they are. Well, one of them. Come quick. Kenji and Hiro lost the dog we were supposed to walk. You guys are real winners, aren't you? Kiba said. He sounded annoyed, but Hinata knew he was actually very amused. The girl blushed deeply, looking like she was about to defend herself when Kiba said goodbye to his teammates and followed her. It wasn't my fault, she was saying to her teacher as they walked away. The weather is going to change for the worse. Shino voiced when they were alone. A few more months of winter, then spring will come. She would look forward to spring, and then she could do her gardening again. It gets worse before it gets better, he said and walked on. Hinata felt a strong chill enter her bones. Shino was usually right about these things. Hinata sat outside the office. The warm bowl in her hands was heating her up pretty nicely. She was sure Naruto had yet to eat anything. He would only be happy to see her with a bowl of his favorite ramen. Hello Hinata, Shizune said walking by. She was accompanied with her usual stacks of papers and tonton. Hello Shizune, do you need any help? No, I got it. If you put that down, tonton will eat it, then what will Naruto have for lunch? The woman smiled at the now blushing Hinata. Sometimes it worried her how she could be read like a book. Are you waiting for him? Yes, I think he's with Tsunade now. I don't want to interrupt. Well, you might as well go in with me or you'll never to see him. And between you and me Hinata, being as close as you are with Konoha's future Hokage, you're granted certain privileges. Her voice was a whisper. Hinata wanted to ask what she meant, but she had already opened the door. Hello, Shizune announced to the seemingly empty room. Hinata hid behind her, almost embarrassed to be seen bringing food to Naruto in front of Tsunade. Hinata, she heard him from across the room. He looked up from his pile of papers. No doubt Tsunade had him doing most of her paperwork as part of his apprentice training. Hello Hinata. Tsunade smiled at her while Hinata gave a bow. Is that for me or Naruto? You know neither of us have eaten today. Tsunade, don't lie, you ate an hour ago leaving Naruto to do your work. Shizune scolded her friend upon seeing the blush on Hinata's face. You read my mind Hinata, I'm starving. Naruto smiled at her. She gave it to him and fought the urge to give him a kiss as well. I figured you would be. You know Hinata, you don't have to wait outside all the time. If you don't hear us talking, you are welcome to come in. Tsunade said to the girl, who only seemed to blush in response. I didn't want to interrupt anything. You wouldn't have, but like I said, unless you hear us talking, you're more than welcome to enter. Sakura barges in without warning all the time, so does Shizune. You can do the same. The blonde woman made it sound like a special privilege to barge in without warning, a privilege Hinata wasn't sure she would take advantage of. She wasn't really one to barge in on anyone without knocking. Was this special privilege Shizune had been whispering about? It's still hot, Naruto voiced behind her at his small desk of papers. Naruto, don't spill that on those docents. Tsunade scolded to him. Don't spill sake on yours. He shot back. Hinata tried to hide a smile. The two fought more like siblings than her and Kiba did. Speaking of Kiba. Tsunade-san. I was wondering why things have been so slow for Kiba, Shino and I. Why haven't there been any missions lately? It's been slow, I know. You're more than welcome to take up some D-class missions if you want, though. As far as your regular class ones, I'm afraid we're just going to have to wait on those. Are you getting anxious? A little. I just really don't remember going this long without one before. Don't worry, I'm sure we'll get a storm of rescue mission come next week. She said, looking out the window. The weather is getting worse, and if it snows, people will be getting lost left and right. You'll have your hands full then. Enjoy the relaxation for now. That was good. Hinata looked over at the blonde boy, still impressed with the speed he could eat his food in. You would think the boy grew up in a family of 20 rather than by himself. Good, you're done. Back to work then. Tsunade chimed in. Hinata saw Naruto pout but not complain. Could you really complain when you were handed your dream? Hinata turned to Tsunade and gave a polite bow and excused herself. She said goodbye to Naruto and contemplated what to do the rest of the day. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.